I studied over 1,000 landlords, not by reading books or Googling stats, but by hosting one of the UK's largest property networking events every single month for 3 years. Over 100 landlords in the room every single time, and after all of those conversations, the observations and the breakdowns, I noticed a brutal pattern. A reason why the vast majority of landlords, especially those who look like they've made it, are stuck on a path that almost guarantees financial failure. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what that pattern is so you can escape it before it's too late. But fair warning, what I'm about to share is going to challenge a lot of what you've been told by so-called property experts online. Let's begin. Here's what I found. Most landlords I spoke to, and I'm talking about people with millions of pounds worth of property, were still only bringing in less than £40,000 per year from their portfolio. After reviewing the strategies and also the habits of these landlords across the UK, I noticed a pattern. Most of these landlords were asset rich but cash poor. They looked successful on paper, but they were still stuck financially. It reminded me of the parable in the Bible, the man who built bigger and bigger barns to store his wealth, thinking that it would secure his future. But God called him a fool because he was rich in assets but poor in wisdom. You see, property without profit, much like profit without purpose, is a dead end. Many of those landlords who were asset rich but cash poor had properties that looked great on paper, but portfolios that couldn't fund the lifestyles that they wanted. Not today, and certainly not tomorrow. It shocked me, but when I dug deeper, it started to make sense. They were all battling three invisible enemies. Enemies that don't get talked about enough in the get rich through property narrative online. And these three enemies are why so many landlords, despite their best intentions, can't actually extract cash flow from their portfolio. So let me show you what they are. The first problem is the one that everyone talks about but almost no one solves properly: finding the funds. Now, you might think, but landlords already own properties. They must have found the funds before, right? Yes, but most of them used the wrong vehicle. They relied on personal savings, remortgaging their home, or borrowing from traditional banks with rigid criteria, which meant the moment interest rates shifted or void periods hit, their entire model became unstable. Some landlords had access to funds but didn't know how to fuel their property plans. You see, they were funding property but they weren't fueling it. They had capital, they had mortgages, but they had no strategy. And no strategy equals no cash flow. What they lacked, and what I teach my clients to build, is financial fuel. A systemized, repeatable way of funding deals, even if you don't own the property, without relying on estate agents or big deposits or being chained to a mortgage lender. Let me show you what that looks like in practice. Let me tell you about Dwayne. When I first met Dwayne, he wasn't even interested in property. He was a married man with children, just like me, watching one of our Instagram lives. He showed up to our cash flow creation week, not as a VIP, just as a general participant, and he flipped the script completely. After that training, he found a deal and structured it differently. He walked away and started controlling properties, not buying them, and built up a cash flow of over £1,733 per month, without estate agents, without huge savings, and without owning a single property. This is what happens when someone escapes the traditional landlord trap. He didn't need to remortgage, he didn't need to wait, he just needed to know where the real money lives. And that brings us to the second enemy. See, most landlords are time poor. They're in full-time jobs, managing families, or stuck in operational tasks. And because of that, they don't actually have the time to find new deals. This creates what I call the deal dilemma. Even if they had the funds, they can't act fast enough. Because when you don't have a decision-making system, every deal ends up looking risky. So landlords freeze, they stay stuck, and they miss the exact deal that could have unlocked their next level. No decision-making system equals no momentum. So they either miss opportunities, or worse, they jump into the wrong ones because they're reactive and not strategic. The antidote? What I call deal discovery, a simple 3-step system. You simply automate your activity, you cultivate a community, and you select supportive strategies. When I learned how to systemize lead generation and select strategies that supported my time and not drained it, everything changed. I chose HMOs over serviced accommodation, direct to vendor over waiting on agents, and marketing systems that run whilst I sleep. Suddenly, I wasn't fighting for time anymore. Deals were coming to me. Now, before I move on to the next culprit, if you want to learn more about overcoming deal dilemma, then make sure you click the link in my description box and in the comment section below, because I've made available the cash flow quiz that will dive deeper on how to identify if this enemy is slowing you down and show you what you can actually do about it. This quiz will walk you through where you currently are in your journey and what your next move should be. Again, make sure you click the link in the description box and the comment section below. Now, with that out of the way, let's move on to the next enemy that's keeping landlords broke. Now, this is the most overlooked barrier. It's the final enemy and the most dangerous that I discovered. Even when landlords have properties and even when they've found a deal, they often still don't know how to make money from it. Most landlords never took time to understand how money actually moves through property. They chased returns, they ignored costs, they forgot management time, and they hoped that market increases would save them. Even Solomon, one of the wisest property owners in biblical history, said, "By wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established." So they suffer from cash flow confusion. Cash flow confusion isn't just about math, it's about missing wisdom. They don't know what the actual numbers mean. They don't know how to optimize returns. They don't know how to stack deals to build sustainable income. And when you're confused, you lose. And that's why I always share what I call the cash flow curriculum to help you move forward with clarity, a way of thinking and executing that will help you reduce your risk, gain guidance from proven coaches, and leverage other people's lessons. If you want to succeed long-term in property, especially as a landlord, you need a framework, you need a blueprint, you need a map. Otherwise, you're just guessing. So now that you've seen these three enemies, let me ask you a hard question. Which one of these enemies is secretly costing you your cash flow? Is it finding funds? Is it the deal dilemma? Or is it the cash flow confusion? Let me know in the comments. And if you want a free resource to help you diagnose which enemy is slowing you down, check the link in the description. I created a short quiz that shows you where you are and what your next move should be. It's currently completely free, because here's the truth. If you don't fix these, you'll stay stuck. You'll stay like those landlords I met every single month for 3 years, sitting on valuable assets that don't actually generate value. But if you do fix them, then the next £1,000 a month in cash flow and far more becomes not just possible, it becomes predictable. So if you're ready to escape the trap, to avoid being just another one of the 1,000 landlords who looks like a success but can't retire from their portfolio, then I invite you to do one thing: fix the foundation. I created the 5-day cash flow creation week to help you build the right foundation, to fuel your strategy, to finally create real sustainable cash flow. Because you don't need another property, you need a process. Join us with the link in the description and let's start creating your breakthrough. Build your financial fuel, master your deal discovery, commit to a real cash flow curriculum, and do it now. Now, at this point of the video, you might be wondering how you can have an unfair advantage in your property journey. If so, I would encourage you to watch these brutally honest truths where I'll teach you how to get the most unfair advantage you will ever have on your property journey. Small keys open big doors, so I'll see you in the next one.